Masonry and the Ohio Lodge of Research is about making meaningful connections. To facilitate those connections, the OLR recently hosted a day of Masonic education referred to as Med Talks. I am David Darity, the current master of the OLR, and I'm sitting down with our senior warden, Brother Chad Kopinski, and our junior warden, Brother Mike Miller, to consider the successes and opportunities of the Med Talks as we begin a new project for the Ohio Lodge of Research. I think the easy place to start is, and it's maybe somewhat self promoting, but is just your guys' thoughts on the Med Talks on our meeting last week. What did you like? What did you not like? What did people miss?
They definitely missed out if they weren't there. I mean, I liked how when we started, you went around and introduced yourself to everybody that was there and got to meet people a little bit before we really got started into anything. So then that made those side discussions a lot easier. Like, oh yeah, hey, what'd you think about that? Or, talking to the guys who were selling books or, all those things.
Two thoughts. One is I totally agree that being able to go and just drop whatever pretense that there is, just kind of go in and be like, hi, I'm whomever. I mean, that kind of ethos of you're not walking in trying to be the smartest guy in the room. And I think that's something that, I'm going to give you credit for, Dave, because you're taller than I am. That when you start off in Masonry, it's so easy to get intimidated because, right, we are a hierarchical organization, and somebody comes in, you're like, that apron doesn't look like mine, and why is everyone calling him that as opposed to this? And you almost think that you don't have permission to have an opinion or to ask questions, or you feel like, or you don't have anything to offer the conversation. So to be able to go someplace where people are genuinely interested in what you have to say or what you think, or being able to express that and get that kind of positive feedback is wonderful. I mean, to what Mike said. And I also thought that the range of topics you had and the type of people you had there were a lot of conversations that, like, there are little seeds that you got planted to go over and, like, grab Don Cruz and say, Don, what do you think about this? And hear Don do Don stuff. I mean, people miss the opportunity to hear different voices, hear different ideas, kind of expand their world. Do you agree with that, Mike, or no?
No, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And so I did a lot of my research for Masonry before I joined through YouTube and things like that too. And so to see some of these guys that I've heard of their books and or seen on a couple YouTube videos on was really kind of cool to just meet them in person. And then, just hearing just a tidbit of what they had to say, it's like, man, it really resonated. And the fact that they were just, just another brother at a meeting was really cool too.
Which were the ones that you really, of the ones that were there, what were the ones that I guess that really kind of you resonated with you, or that you had a takeaway from?
Well,
My feelings aren't hurt if it's not mine. So just so you know.
well, yours gave me a really great idea, talking about the writing in the book and stuff. And it's like, I'm going to go around and have everybody sign my book, which was nice because that was also another good icebreaker. Um, Bizak is always, I mean, he's just so knowledgeable on masonry, not just Kentucky masonry, but just masonry in general. So, hearing some of his stuff, I'm so brain farting on names, and he'll kill me if he hears this. Um, Indiana.
James Buckhorn.
Yes, Buckhorn. Thank you. Sorry, James. Um, his was really good too, and I mean, it was a good way to end too. So, I mean, they were all good. I mean, I really there wasn't any of them that was like, oh my gosh, I wish this would hurry up and be done. All of them kind of left me sitting on my seat, like, keep going. So,
yeah, honestly, I think the ones that I liked the best were the ones. Of course, I had the advantage of knowing who was coming and piecing it together. But the ones that I were the most cautious about, most uncertain about, were the new guys. Jacob Fields from Kentucky, and just gave an incredible version of his story about rebuilding the lodge. Suschek, who, is a psychologist, and gave a what I think was a very good presentation about the liberating structures. But he's brand new. He had only been a Mason for 6 months, and he's making these connections. And then the other one was Ellie Harriet, that he's a relatively new member of the Lodge of Research, relatively new Mason, and gave this incredible presentation on music. And I was not worried about them as individuals, but just because there was an inexperience in presenting, especially at Masonic functions, that I was just amazed. I was really pleased with how well those came off. I thought they did a great job.
Well, and here's the wonderful thing about, the new guys, for lack of a better word, is that one thing that I don't know if you all agree with me, but I don't really care, is that people have to find their own way into Masonry, right? They have to figure out some way to make Masonry meaningful to them. And so I loved because Ellie's a musician. Like, music speaks to him. Like, that is something that just makes sense to him. And so for him to be able to take music, something he understands, relates to, connects with, and then be able to kind of apply that lens to Masonry and say, well, like, how can I use something that I understand to help view something I don't totally understand yet? Or how can I make this all make sense? And to hear him talk about something that he was so passionate about and so excited about, kind of like you're saying, Mike, there are presentations I've heard that I don't like, they don't speak to me, but the person is so excited and so passionate that I'll take something from it. Like, I get excited to see things through their eyes. So.
Brother Men's Eyes. I got a little thing for the Beehive anyway, because that's what I did my Royal Schofield Society thing.
I was going to ask you about that.
And so I was like on edge. And his presentation wasn't exactly what I expected. It was so much more. I mean, the way that he tied everything in together with what he does for a living, I mean, that was great.
Well, presumably, I've gotten feedback that people want to continue this. They want to see it again in coming years. So as the next in line, so to speak, what would you guys do different? What do you think we should change?
This is going to come out wrong. So, but bear with me. I love that there was downtime. I almost wanted a little more structure to the downtime. And I think that you did a good job of trying to add that structure. I know that you were trying to manage time, because the time didn't quite, these are when you're dealing with people and, this type of schedule, you can get either ahead or behind so quickly, it's not even funny. And so you have to have those things in your back pocket you pull out to, to expand or contract your schedule, which I thought you had and did remarkably well. But as I'm looking forward to next year, where I'm just going to plan on doing this somehow, I think, I don't know, I think maybe either something a little bit more structured, organized, to help either direct the downtime or facilitate the downtime. And I know that sounds absolutely like silly, but I'll go back to Midwest Conference, the scavenger hunt, which was, there was structure to it, but I didn't really care if the structure was followed. It just was a way to kind of get people out of their shells and to start talking to each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely understand what you're saying. And the timing, the structure of it was a challenge for me to try to piece together when we were planning it.
Listen, it was a structure to present those things.
It's
20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's evil.
It's no secret that I am far more, or maybe I should say it this way, I am far less formal than most Masons. And so the informality to me was the value of the day. And so I really liked the downtime, the conversations. But it's interesting because I very specifically asked for feedback at the end of the day, and I've gotten it, and most of it's been good. And but I've gotten about 50-50 response of people saying, I wish there was more structure and there was more organization to the discussions. And the other half was saying, oh, I love the fact that there was no structure and organization and we could just wander around and discuss. So it goes to that, I think it goes to that fact that, you can't please everybody all the time. And, I think as long as, in my opinion, as long as there's the opportunity for those connections in that discussion, then it was a success.
When you have the structured discussions, like the time for people to ask questions, what often happens is you have 3 guys who are asking the questions and the other 17 are sitting there kind of going, again, they may not feel that they have license or agency or ability. I mean, they're getting something from listening to other people talk about it, but also it's, and I don't know what the solution is, but you're right. Like I think what you did was great. And I do think that as the day went on, guys felt, considering the guys you had there were a lot of conversations that happened because a lot of the people that we know weren't going to let anybody sit alone, we're walking up to people and saying, hey, what do you think about this? Or, so, I mean, I saw you do that, Mike. I mean, I saw you, you were having people sign your book. So.
Well, like you said, as the day went, people got more comfortable. And so the only thing that would be hard, I mean, that setting was nice. It wasn't in a lodge room. The setting was nice too. But the hard thing is like, how do you plan for, I think this was a total success, and I think word of mouth should help it grow. Absolutely. So to plan that, not knowing what the group size is going to be next time is also tough, right? So to have things planned for the in between, if you've got 20 more guys in the room, you might need a lot for a little bit more time in between. So it's really kind of hard to plan. So that was that was the nice, at least with how it was set up for this first run. More structured,
well,
could be good and bad.
And I think that by nature that anything like this should evolve, right?
Absolutely.
To reflect the location, the times, the personalities, whatever. Dave, if 30 more guys showed up that day, that would have been a very different experience than the guys that we had.
But I mean, we can say that of any event, of any organization, right? It's and we even made that comment, or I even made that comment on the day, that no matter who shows up, those are the right guys that were supposed to be there that day. And so said if you have 10 people show up, then you do you have a great meeting with 10 people. If 100 people show up, you have a great meeting with 100 people. They will be 2 completely and very different meetings, but you do the right thing for the right time. I agree with that. So
let me ask you this. This is the highbrow question of the day, because I don't know, I've had caffeine and you're all in trouble. So how does an event like this actually help Masonic research? Like, what's the benefit to Masonic research for this type of event?
Well,
you're up first, Mike.
I think because the topics were so varied, and it not just the topics, but the experience level of all the guys that presented too. Some guys have been Masons for years, some were fairly new. Masonic education is such a broad spectrum, right? Like it could literally be anything that is relatable. Whether it's history of a lodge, whatever, esoterics, go down those rabbit holes of whatever. So everybody should have gotten something out of that, right? They had to have.
But there are those who are going to say that this isn't really Masonic research, that this kind of thing isn't.
But we didn't say that it was research. It was a Masonic education day. That was what it was called.
So I don't know, Dave.
I mean, I think
about that question. So
no, not at all. Not at all. I was honestly trying to be quiet and let Mike answer before I chimed in. No, I think, what did we do for research? I don't know. I think we did do good for Masonic research. I don't know that that was necessarily the goal of the day, though. And I made the comment that the purpose of the day, as it was titled, was a Masonic Education Day. Education can take on so many different roles and so many different capacities. And that was I think the value of having 8 or 10 speakers on such a wide variety of topics, is that everybody who was present got exposed to a lot of new information. It may not have been completely new Masonic information, but it was new to them. And that alone sparks ideas. That alone is what leads to the next steps in research of whatever type that may be. That's, I think, the value of it.
I absolutely agree. Because, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, right? Masonry is active. Masonry doesn't exist in a vacuum, or it shouldn't, right? And so, yeah, I mean, coming here, you find guys who at least somebody will say like, oh, I thought the same thing, or, yeah, we talk about those connections. It's making those types of things. Even sometimes just knowing that it's silly, it sounds that you're not crazy, that, you hear somebody else say something about the beehive or complex systems, or, and I talk about writing in books, like, and just, it was like, oh yeah, somebody else has that same thought, or somebody else thinks the same way that I do. So,
but to your point, and I think, to me, an event like this, as much as it's nice to have someone reaffirm that you're not crazy, having someone challenge what you said and question you is even more valuable. I know in my preparation for my presentation and in the conversations that I had there, it made me think differently even about the material I thought I understood going in. Not that it necessarily made me think I was wrong, but it made me approach it from a different perspective. And that's, like I said, not everybody in the room has to agree. And in some ways, I think it's far better if they don't.
Because of the experience of Masons that presented too, if anybody was in the room that was still a new Mason, they should have been able to been like, hey, if they just did that education piece or they came up with that, I could do my own thing too. So, it also made it tangible for other people to start doing their own Masonic education on whatever topic too.
Not only the presentations, but the people in our organization are diverse, Masonry or OLR. And most of the people who are interested and involved are not academics by training. Right? They're people that are just interested. I think the quality of presentation, I think the quality of topic from every presenter was relatively equal, regardless of their training. And that's kind of the point that I wanted to make, is that, yeah, we had some people there that were academically trained. We had many people who were not, but we got really high quality presentations from all of them. And that was, that's something I think that we need to spread, that, you don't have to be an academic to be successful.
Again, we keep saying to your point, but to your point, that it does, you're lowering the threshold to entry. That, and I keep talking about the people who are sitting there at home worried that, again, that I don't know what to say. I don't think I have anything to offer. I don't know enough to be able to, enough, right?
Yep.
Every person there has some idea, some story that they can tell in the way that makes sense to them. So you smiled when I said that, Mike. Why?
Well, no, because everything you guys are saying, I mean, it's hitting right on the head. I mean, the education thing, when I first joined Masonry, and I didn't feel like I was getting the information that I was looking for, which is kind of how I was one of those guys who stumbled upon the Schofield Society. And then a lot of my travels led me to a lot of different lodges who were education based. And man, I kind of just, for lack of better words, I just felt out of place. Just because of where they were academically and where they were in their knowledge base. Now I've been a little bit more involved and I'm a little bit more well-rounded, and I realize that, hey, everybody's just as welcoming no matter where you go. So it's not like they weren't welcoming or anything like that, but what you guys are saying though, as far as, I mean, it's open for anybody, and it's just an idea and then running with it and looking up what interests you. So everything you guys are saying is just, it's like, yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I think we've covered Med Talks more than we need to. So let me ask this question, Chad, for you to maybe kind of bring a close to that conversation, which is,
Sure.
as the as the current senior warden of the Lodge of Research and
Yes.
presumptive master of the Lodge of Research for next year, do you have any comments or plans or anything that you would like to say about Med Talks or anything similar that might be coming in the future?
I'll be honest, you kind of inspired me with this, that, and with
Well,
the
thank
reaction
you.
that I think it should go forward. I'll be honest, I'm talking to East Palestine Lodge because I like that part of the state and I haven't been there in a while. I think that your idea this year of trying to make sure that we got a tri-state area, I think it's great. Let's go to the other side of the state and see if we can get those states involved. I like this time of year. I like the format. I like, again, the democratization of it, of let's get guys in a room, let them talk, share their ideas, and sort of see what happens. And we've seen so many of these, whether it's Masonic cons or the road shows, the Midwest Conference, or this, I mean, just guys want to get together and talk. I think it'd be criminal if we didn't do it going forward. And so I am telling you right now that I'm 95% on a location. I'm 95% on a weekend. Speakers, no clue. If you're interested, let me know. We'll give you a spot. But I think also that in Masonic education in Ohio, we oftentimes we're kind of pulling from the same well. A lot of the same circles are in Schofield and OLR, that I think that it's important that you did during this one, but I also think for us going forward, getting Prince Hall, getting chapter council, our York Rite bodies, our Scottish Rite bodies, our Allied Masonic degrees, like even getting some, Eastern Star or some non-Masonic things, that a day of education doesn't always have to be specifically, Mackey and Pike and that type of specific Masonic education, but getting guys in a room and letting them exchange those ideas and make those meaningful connections. That's what it's all about.
There you go. You've heard it. It's coming. And Brothers Kopinski and Miller, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on Med Talks. As always, I think we've asked more questions than we've answered, but it is safe to say that the future of the Ohio Lodge of Research is bright, and I personally look forward to discovering where we're going to find ourselves in a few more years. Thank you.